I never thought I'd be sneaking out of my own daughter's house in the dead of night. I'm Karen, 57, a retired school teacher, and what I heard through the vent that night made me run. For months I'd been living with Sarah and her husband, Ethan, after my hip surgery. I thought I was being helpful, folding laundry, cooking dinners, being the grandma, but lately the smiles had turned thin, the comments sharp, and Ethan's eyes slid past me like I was already gone. That night, I was washing dishes while Sarah pretended to tidy up the living room. Ethan was laughing too loudly at something on TV. And I almost left the kitchen when I heard him through the air vent. Low. Hard words that froze my blood. We can't risk her telling anyone. One mistake and she has to disappear. Don't worry. I've already arranged the rest. I stood very still, the water running, my hands going numb. For a beat I thought I misheard, that maybe it was a bad joke. Then I heard a name I'd never heard in family talk before, a rental company, a room number, a time. My throat closed. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things, that maybe Ethan was talking about a work problem, but the sharpness in his voice didn't fit any job. It fit menace. I remembered the bruises Sarah hid last month under long sleeves, the quiet phone calls she rushed away to take, the nights she came home in a fog. I had told myself to trust her marriage, to keep our peace. Now trust felt like a dangerous thing. I packed a small bag in 10 minutes, my passport, a little cash, the old photograph of my late husband tucked into my wallet, and slipped on my coat. I left a note that said I was stepping out for a breath of air. It was honest enough to avoid alarm but vague enough to buy me time. As I climbed out through the bedroom window, cold air hit my face and my heart pounded so loud I thought they might hear it. Down below, the street was empty and the moon was thin. Behind me, Sarah's door creaked, or maybe it was a floorboard, and for one awful second I pictured Ethan opening his mouth and telling her I'd gone. Before I go on, if you enjoy real family tales with twists, please like, share, and subscribe. This one gets worse before it gets better. I had seconds. I slid down the drain pipe, feet slipping on frost, and felt a phone buzzing in my pocket. A message from an unknown number flashed on the screen. Good, she's on the move. Don't stop until you reach 7th and Pine. My hands shook. Who was watching my every step? Who wanted me gone? I walked into the night, only knowing one thing for sure. I could not go back inside that house. I pulled my coat tighter and walked until my legs trembled, until the streetlights blurred and the cold felt like it was trying to find my bones. 7th and Pine was a small intersection with one all-night bakery and a shabby motel whose neon sign buzzed like an insect. I sat on a bench, breathing hard, and tried to listen for footsteps. My phone buzzed again. Sit tight. Someone will come. The message had no number, no name. I felt ridiculous trusting strangers, but I also felt too tired to keep moving. A few minutes later, a car slowed at the curb. The driver rolled down his window and called, "Karen." His voice was warm and low. I looked up. It was Marcus from down the street, 32. Runs the hardware store. Always polite, always a little too friendly for small talk. He'd helped me carry groceries once after my surgery. He wasn't family. He wasn't a cop. He was probably the last person I would have expected to save me. "Get in," he said without waiting for me to answer. His eyes were worried. Honest. I slid into the passenger seat, and for a second, the world felt a notch safer. He drove us to the back of an old building and opened a side door that led to a tiny studio above the shop. "You can stay here tonight," he said. "No questions. I close early. No one will bother us." The place smelled like coffee and sawdust. He handed me a mug. His hand brushed mine. The touch was quick, but it sent something odd through me. A spark I didn't expect at my age. "I know what it looks like," he said softly when he caught my face. "But you look like you might break if you sit out in the cold." I laughed. A short sound that surprised both of us. "I am breaking," I said. And there was no shame in saying it, as I warmed my hands. Marcus shut the curtains and moved quietly, bringing me a blanket. "Tell me everything," he urged. I wanted to lie. I wanted to say I'd just had a bad night and everything was fine. Instead, I told him the truth. The vent, Ethan's voice, the rental company name, the note telling me to not stop until here. I left out nothing. And with each sentence I felt lighter and more terrified. Marcus listened without interrupting. That kind of attention that makes you want to cry because someone finally hears you. He asked the right questions, not blaming, not probing, and when I finished, he simply said, "You did the right thing getting out." We were quiet for a long time, and then my phone buzzed again. A picture popped up on the screen. It was Sarah, in the doorway of our house. A small overnight bag at her feet, eyes red and raw, and a note folded in her hand. The sender was the same unknown number. My fingers shook as I opened the image. The note read, "Meet me at the laundromat on 3rd. Midnight. Don't bring anyone." My heart jumped. Sarah was reaching out. But why the secrecy? Why the burned phone number? I stared at Marcus. He watched me carefully. If she sent that, she's in danger. But she also might be trying to lure you back. His voice was blunt. "You can't go alone." I felt the old tug mothering, wanting to step into the breach for my child. But the memory of Ethan's voice, "She has to disappear," thudded in my head. I closed my eyes. "I don't know what she wants me to do," I whispered. A slow thump from below made us both start. Marcus put a finger to his lips, then crept to the door and peered down the stairwell. He returned pale. "Someone's been in my shop tonight," he said. "Footprints in the sawdust. They used the back alley. They were looking for you." The words sank like cold stones. Whoever had been watching me hadn't given up when I left. They knew my patterns. My neighbors, the people who would help. That meant Ethan or whoever he worked for was closer than I thought. "You should rest," Marcus said, urgency cracking his voice. "And you should call the police." The word police felt huge and useless at the same time. Earlier messages said they couldn't be trusted. "The police might be part of it," I said. "They warned me about that." Marcus's jaw tightened. For the first time, I saw anger, not at me but at the world that let this happen. "Then we go another way," he said. "We get proof. We get help from someone who still believes in doing the right thing." I wanted to ask who he meant, but the clock on the wall blinked toward midnight and my phone chimed again. A short message. "Don't bring Marcus." No explanation, no name. My chest squeezed. Marcus glanced at the screen and then at me. "You have to decide who to trust," he said quietly. "I can drive you there, or I can wait here." I looked at him. A safe face in a sudden world of shadows, and then at the picture of my daughter with the note. My mother heart screamed to run back to her. My new, wary head muttered caution. "I'm going," I said. My voice surprised me with how steady it sounded. "But if anything feels wrong, we walk away." Marcus nodded and hesitated, then leaned forward and pressed something into my hand, a small USB thumb drive. "If you find anything, give this to Detective Harris at the precinct on Oak. He's the only cop I trust." His fingers lingered for a heartbeat too long, and I felt the same strange heat of connection, mixed with guilt. "I know it's wrong to want comfort now," I said. He gave a small, sad smile. "Then don't think about that. Think about staying alive." Outside, the night had grown colder. I wrapped the blanket tighter and left Marcus with one last look that said more than words. As I walked toward the laundromat, my phone buzzed one final time. A short video. I stopped and pressed play. It showed Sarah inside her bedroom, dialing a number with trembling hands, then stuffing the phone into a sock and dropping it under the bed. She mouthed something I couldn't hear, but her eyes met the camera and they begged. Then the screen cut to black. My legs felt like lead. I wanted to run back, to grab Sarah and drag her to Marcus's safety. Instead, I walked forward, into the dark, toward a meeting that could be a rescue or a trap. My heart hammered, and a small part of me whispered, "I know it's wrong, but why does going feel like the only thing I can do?" The laundromat on 3rd looked dead from the outside, the kind of place no one should be at midnight. A single buzzing light flickered above the door, casting broken shadows across the glass. Inside, only one machine was running, thudding rhythmically like a heartbeat. My palms were slick with sweat as I pushed the door open. Sarah was there. She sat hunched on a plastic chair, clutching her overnight bag to her chest. Her hair was messy, her eyes red like she hadn't stopped crying for days. When she saw me, she jumped up. "Mom," she whispered, voice trembling. "You shouldn't have come." I wanted to rush to her, but something in her face stopped me. Fear, but not of me. Fear of who might be listening. I lowered my voice. "You sent the message. You asked me here." She shook her head violently. "No, I didn't." "He did." My stomach dropped. "Ethan." Her lips pressed together, and she gave the smallest nod. Before I could ask more, the hum of the dryers cut out, plunging the room into a silence so heavy I could hear my own pulse. Then a door at the back creaked open. Ethan walked in, smiling like this was all some family game. His eyes glowed with a strange calm. "Karen," he said smoothly, "you will..." Almost made this easy. Sarah backed into the corner, clutching her bag like a shield. "Ethan, please," she begged. "This isn't right." He didn't look at her. His gaze was fixed on me. "Do you know how much trouble you've caused by running off? Do you know how many people are watching you now?" He took a step closer, his shoes echoing against the tile. "You were supposed to drink, that was all. One sip, and none of this would matter." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. "You mean the coffee?" His smile widened. "Finally, you understand?" Sarah's voice cracked. "Mom, don't listen." "He quiet," Ethan snapped, his voice sharp enough to cut the air. For the first time, I saw the truth in Sarah's eyes. The bruises, the silence, the fear I'd pretended not to notice. He wasn't just manipulative, he was dangerous. I gripped the USB Marcus had given me, hidden in my coat pocket. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "So what happens now? You make me disappear, like you made Sarah." His smirk faltered, just for a second. Then he stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper meant only for me. "I don't have to do a thing. You'll take yourself out. Fear does the job better than poison ever could." At that moment, the laundromat door swung open. Marcus stood there, chest heaving, eyes blazing. He must have followed me, ignoring my warning. "Step away from her," he barked. Ethan's calm cracked. His smile vanished as he turned toward Marcus. "You shouldn't be here." Marcus raised his phone, the screen glowing. Too late. I recorded everything. The color drained from Ethan's face. For the first time, he looked cornered, but instead of running, he laughed a low, chilling laugh. "You think recording me will save you? You don't even know who I work for." Sarah grabbed my arm, whispering, "Mom, we have to go. Now." But before we could move, Ethan lunged. He knocked the phone from Marcus's hand, sending it skittering across the floor. The sound of shattering glass filled the laundromat as one of the front windows cracked under the impact. Marcus shoved Ethan back, but Ethan was strong, fueled by something darker than anger. They struggled, grunting, crashing into machines. My heart pounded as Sarah screamed. I knew one thing with certainty: if we stayed another second, none of us were leaving alive. I grabbed Sarah's hand and pulled her toward the broken window. The night air rushed in, cold and sharp. We stumbled out into the street just as Ethan's roar echoed behind us and then the screech of tires. A black car pulled up fast, headlights blinding. The doors flew open, and men in dark coats stepped out. They weren't here to help us. Would you like me to finish with the final section where the ultimate reveal and ending twist happens? The black car skidded to a halt, its headlights cutting across the cracked pavement. Two men in dark coats stepped out with the kind of precision that made my stomach twist. This wasn't random. They weren't hired thugs. They were professionals, and they had come for me. Ethan stopped fighting Marcus and straightened his shirt, almost smug. "See, I told you. You can't run. They don't care if you scream or beg. They just want it done." Sarah clung to my arm, trembling. "Mom, please, don't let them take you." One of the men walked forward, his face expressionless. "Karen, you've caused more trouble than you understand. Hand over what you have, and this ends quietly." His eyes flicked to my pocket. He knew about the USB. Marcus stood between us. Breathing hard, his lips split from the fight. "You're not touching her," he growled. Ethan laughed, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You don't get it, do you? She was marked from the moment she moved in with us. She was supposed to disappear. And you," he jabbed a finger at Marcus. "You just made yourself another problem." The man in the coat raised his hand like a signal. My pulse spiked. I gripped the USB tighter, every instinct screaming at me to run, but there was nowhere left to go. And then, just when it felt like everything was closing in, Sarah did something that froze us all. She stepped forward, pulling something from her overnight bag. A phone, not hers, not mine, a burner. She held it high, her thumb hovering over the screen. "I already sent copies," she said, her voice steadier than I'd ever heard it. "To every contact, every inbox, every drive. The second you touch her, the whole world sees what you've done." Ethan's face went pale. "You wouldn't dare." Sarah's chin lifted. "Try me." The two men hesitated, exchanging a look. Their silence said more than words. They weren't here for a fight, not if exposure was on the line. Without a word, they turned, slipped back into the car, and drove off into the night. The roar of the engine faded, leaving only our ragged breaths in the cold air. Ethan stared at Sarah, his composure crumbling. "You betrayed me." She looked him in the eye, her voice shaking but firm. "No, you betrayed us." Marcus stepped forward then, grabbing Ethan's arm and pinning him against the wall until his knees buckled. "It's over," he hissed. "You'll never touch them again." For the first time in months, I saw my daughter stand tall, not broken, not silent. She took my hand, her grip warm and sure. "We're free now, Mom." The flashing lights of police cars appeared at the corner, sirens splitting the silence. For once, I wasn't afraid. Sarah had outsmarted them all, and Ethan's empire of control was about to crumble. But as they dragged him away, Ethan looked back at me with a smile that chilled my blood. "This isn't finished, Karen. You think tonight was about you. You've just opened the wrong door." And deep in my bones, I knew he wasn't lying. If this story shook you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you have trusted Sarah's message, or walked away that night?